The second, which I think that's the bad side of the story. The good side of the story is the increasing prosperity in the Indian society. 30 साल पहले बजाज स्कूटर के लिए लाइन लगती थी. आज की तारीख में आप मर्सिडीज लेके जाओ तो भी ऑटो वाला कट मार देता है. This increasing, it's a combination. We have a deteriorating quality of urban life and we have increasing prosperity. Historically, wherever it has happened, Chicago, right after the Great Depression, early 1940s, Europe, right after the post-war, wherever this has happened, people have begun to pay attention to planning. And that's what's happening in India at this point in time. Everyone is paying attention to planning of cities, right? Think JNNURM, think smart cities, think conservation, think tourism. Think all sorts of planning, flyovers, metros. This is a golden moment. We guys are lucky to be living at this point in time in this place. Incredible amount of action happening. And that creates opportunities for professionals to make better development plans. What architects, and that's here where I think it is important for architects to pay attention. Architects get so caught up with their little plot boundaries and their setbacks and their FARs and going to Dubai and taking photograph of the latest building so they can make their new clean elevations and their interior details. Or they get caught up in gated communities, right? They're not paying attention beyond the property line. The city does not stop at the property line. And the city is a common good. All of us live in the city. You can be very happy, right? The planners who pay attention to this, unfortunately, are caught in the government pride. They have to follow the politicians, they have to write notes because they're bureaucrat first and planner later, right? So that's the gap. And someone, Ashok Parekh might be right. I could be talking as a tourist and be gone tomorrow. But for the people who sort of do it on a daily basis, I think we need to be paying attention to making better development plans. Second, we cannot do this unless we pay attention to the complexity of urban places. As I said, cities are extremely complex and people would have to work together. And the way people make their plans, right? हमारा planning का model क्या है? Data collect करें, comprehensive data. हर चीज का data ले आओ, जी रोजगार का ले आओ, पानी का ले आओ, बिजली का ले आओ. उसकी basis पे हम analyze करके projection करेंगे, इतनी आबादी होगी, उसकी basis पे हम land use set करेंगे, and we hope everyone follows that. That's an antiquated 1930s model, which the people who invented it ditched long ago. We need to pay attention to what people are doing. What are different objectives? What do people want? What do builders want? What do households want? And then take cognizance. So the book sort of does that at some level, and I hope people who read it find it illuminating and interesting. The third, comprehensive master plans have not worked anywhere, and thus it is critical to think of planning as a pragmatic tool. Planning is not solely a technical activity. It is, at its very heart, a political enterprise. Because if the city has 100 crores and it spends 50 crores there, that means it is denying those 50 crores to several other actors. At its very heart, it's a political enterprise. So think of planning as a pragmatic tool to improve the common good. You could live in the fanciest penthouse in a gated community, but you and your kids would breathe the same air and invariably drink the same water and face the same traffic, right? So it's not a public good or a private good. We have long distinguished based on these two extremes. Planning lies somewhere in the between. It's about doing common good, right? It's not public good, it's not private good. Most people get caught up at these two ends, but it's the common good which is at the heart of this enterprise. So thanks a lot for being patient and sort of, I see interest here, and I want to now get it to Charlie Hook, my colleague, to add a few comments to what I just said. Can you get that video on?
I'm Professor Charlie Hoke. I'm a colleague of Sanjeev Vidyarthi, and he has invited me to share a few comments with you. As we've spent many years together talking about planning and how we might improve the work that plans do for complex places. And certainly the cities in India fit that bill. You might be surprised to know that the last time the municipal government for the city of Chicago adopted a comprehensive citywide master plan was 1966. This plan offered innovative policy ideas for reshaping city residential neighborhoods, but essentially to discourage white flight. The settlement of lower-income African-American households on the west and south sides of the city had stimulated the white households to flee. 50 years later, spatial segregation based on race and the social stigma that this produces have hollowed out neighborhoods. Using public authority to mandate changes in social habit proved both infeasible and unpopular. And this wasn't unique to Chicago. This happened across the entire United States. The effort to adopt comprehensive plans to create a complete vision of future development proved both unpopular and ineffective. Consider how the World Bank and the United Nations prepared reports on urban planning for India and China some 60 years ago. The bank and other US-sponsored assistance agencies adopted centralized and comprehensive planning to direct the flow of resources for national development. The result was the expansion of public sector institutions that contributed to a successful expansion of public administration and enormous infrastructure projects. But it did not foster market innovation and expansion at the regional and the local scale. Professionals at that time believed that government planning would rationally engineer the efficient management of economic and physical development. In the United States, we never instituted at the national level comprehensive planning. There were fears about communism, aversion to large-scale bureaucracy. But the federal government did adopt comprehensive planning as a requirement for regional transportation and urban infrastructure planning, mostly because the federal government funded these projects with substantial resources. So, in a way, the federal government indirectly sponsored the growth of professional planners on states and localities in the United States through this funding arrangement. The focus was on growth, and growth-oriented infrastructure plan provided the roadway, water, sewer, utility networks that in a way defined and demonstrated the power of rational, instrumental, engineering-based planning. But the simultaneous pursuit of public plans among and across these regions didn't go just as folks had expected. Many small suburban municipalities formed, and the result was a lot of social and economic conflict and inefficiency. Plus, many environmental problems emerged: air quality, water depletion. In the 1960s and 70s, both social protest and environmental protest generated and expressed dissatisfaction with this approach to development.